From the lowest to the highest, from the furthest to the nearest, from the smallest of the smallest to the greatest of the greatest, yoga is about all of life, everything we do, all of existence. My name's James Bogue. Welcome to the Whole Life Yoga Podcast. Today I am in Shivalaya, just outside Tiruvannamalai, and I'm just in front of Arunachala. It's there. There's quite a lot of sun out there, but just beyond is the sacred mountain Arunachala. And here is where that mountain was trodden by the great saint Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi. And these days, many devotees come here, and one of the flavors of devotion and practice and teaching that is associated with this place and with Ramana Maharishi is Advaita Vedanta and associated perspectives. Just the other day I was speaking with a beautiful gentleman who has recently discovered this place and is finding so much inspiration here. And he asked me, have you heard of the teaching, I am not this body? And I says, yes, I have. And I find this an interesting phrase, but I do think it's a phrase that is susceptible, liable to misrepresentation and misunderstanding. So many of the teachings of the Advaitic schools, they have come through great masters like, for example, Adi Shankaracharya. And Adi Shankaracharya's teachings are bequeathed to us through living lineages, but also through the medium of Sanskrit or Samskrita, this well-structured language. And when people say, I am not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not this ego, often those pronouncements are partial translations of texts that Adi Shankaracharya gave us, or teachings that were condensed in the form of songs. And, for example, soham, 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 shivoham. So is saha, and it means that. Hum is aham. When people say, I am not this body, it's not a translation of the whole teaching. I think it is much more accurate if one is going to reduce the idea to a single phrase, to say, I am not only this body. I am not just this body, at least from my perspective. Because in the perspectives and visions on yoga that have come to me and that I practice and work with, there is the idea, this is coming through the Kashmiri Shaiva perspectives, also more recently through the Siddha lineage of this part of India. But in the Kashmiri Shaiva lineage, there is very clearly the idea, there is nowhere God is not. There is nowhere consciousness is not. All of this manifest existence, all of that is out there, that is beyond me or my idea of myself, as well as this, is consciousness. So that I am that consciousness is the idea. What is the idea? The idea is that the subject, the object, and everything in between is all this, is all that, is all consciousness. So I am not just this body. I am not just this collection of ideas. I am not just all these associations and sense of identity. I am all of those things and so much more. And the body, in the Indic perspective, in the yogic perspective, yes, one can find teachings about the body as being this conglomeration of things that are emerging, sustaining for a while and falling away, and ultimately it's all just worms and things that rot. yes, one can find this idea, but that's not the only idea we find. We also find the idea that this body is our closest, most intimate and faithful companion for the whole journey of life. And this body, it does not lie. It is full of so much intelligence. And so, from many perspectives in the yogic tradition, there is the idea this body is an extraordinary vehicle and an extraordinary lens, an extraordinary arena for exploration. And when we collaborate with the powers of the body, this can help us attune more keenly to the deep riches of the intelligence which is animating this body. It is said, this is laid out clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, yes, it may be the case that this body is here for a while, and then it will die, and then it will be gone. So, a body without a soul is just a corpse. But a soul without a body is stuck. The body is the vehicle that allows us to have the experience of consciousness, that allows us to remember the consciousness that we really are. So the body is not to be despised, not to be despised, not to be neglected, ignored, suppressed, or repressed. Rather, it is to be acknowledged, honored, cherished, and savored with discernment, with gratitude, with joy, with appreciation. And then this body, this microcosm, becomes the means of the revelation and the recognition of the underlying vaster consciousness that is animating it and all our experience. So when it is said, I am not this body, this is not to do the body down. This is to remind us, I would suggest, that the body is not something separate from what we are, but it is one aspect of what we are. And it's a very important aspect of what we are. Not that we want to become obsessed with the body, not that we want to become a slave to its whims and fancies, not at all, but rather we would like to apprentice ourselves to its intelligence, to its deeper gifts, so we may harness them. And as we do so, use this body to its true potential. From the yogic perspective, the human being occupies this rather wonderful and unusual position because we connect the earth and the sky. We are bipeds. We live on this beautiful earth that supports and enables all our experience. And where do we get our energy from? We get it from the vastness all around us. At a rather immediate level, we are solar-powered beings. We draw in energy from the cosmos. Now, I've just been taking an extraordinary course with an amazing teacher here in the Siddha tradition. And one thing of the many amazing things he shared during the course, he mentioned that from the perspective of the masters of his tradition, when a human being is just sitting quietly, relaxed, as we breathe in, we take in 12 units of life force. And as we breathe out, we spend 16 units. So what does this mean? Our basic homeostasis is in deficit. You might think, no, I'm feeling alive, I'm vibrant. Yes, but where do we get our energy from? Not just from food, not just from the oxygen and the other vital nutrients in the air. If that were the case, we could take the oxygen cylinders and the high quality food and give them to a corpse, and the corpse would come back to life, but that's not what it is. There is something deeper and subtler. There is a cosmic vitality. that we are able to tune into and gain access to and be replenished by when we forget ourself, when we forget our identification with our body, with our mind, and with all of these ideas that make up our sense of self, our ego or our ahankara, all the things that constitute our sense of I. And we do this every night when we sleep. As Paul Pandian, this great teacher, said, every night, all of us, at least for a few moments, we become a monk, we become a renunciate, we forget ourselves, we leave ourselves behind, and in that deep sleep, we can connect to the source that replenishes and gives us this, it taps into this reservoir of life force. In the yogic traditions, there is the idea that our lifespan will be measured not in years, not in minutes, but in breaths, in prana. So here we are, and we are in this bodily vehicle operating within a certain homeostasis, a certain balance. The practices and principles of yoga and the broader Indic practical traditions are intended to help us break that homeostasis and refine it, so we can carve and continue to refine a finer balance, which means we can do more with less. We can live more easefully, more efficiently. And this is one of the reasons why the first principle that is foundational, governing, guiding principle for yoga practice is be friendly to all of oneself, including one's body and its extraordinary intelligence. Be compassionate with oneself and everything around oneself. When we experience beauty and virtue and great things, let it lift you up. And when you see terrible things, be steady, be equipoised. And if we can live like that, then we will live with much more efficiency. And we will begin to uncover and recover our deeper, subtler, vaster, inner power, our truer potential, until eventually we become a yogin, one who's established in that state of skillfulness and efficiency and equipoise, which means we're able to respond easily, skillfully, appropriately to whatever emerges in this changing, whirling field of wonder that is life. And eventually, perhaps, we will become a person who understands reality at a level that goes far beyond anything that we've maybe experienced up to now. Now, that might all sound rather grandiose, rather far off, pie in the sky. But in yoga, we always start where we are, here on this earth, in this body. And so we cultivate Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeksha, friendliness, compassion, joyfulness, and equipoise, here, now, in relation to ourselves, to others, and to our environment, in all our relations, in all our actions. And then by and by, as we cultivate those principles, they will refine, and we will come into a finer balance, step by patient step. We will come into a subtler homeostasis in relation to all the ways that we relate to ourselves and others. And this brings me back to the idea of I am not this body. What does this really mean? I'm not only this body. I mentioned at the beginning, this is a translation of teachings that were encoded in the Sanskrit language. And first of all, the word or the signifier I in English does not adequately replicate the Sanskrit term, which is aham, because is the first phoneme of Sanskrit and ha is the last. So I means the alpha and the omega. It means everything. So I'm not this body. No, I am everything. I am the whole cosmos. I am this consciousness that animates all of that. all of this, all those layers of experience from the first person to the second person to the third person, and all of the interactions between them, all of that is this consciousness, and this consciousness, that consciousness, I am too. So it's not to discount or to relegate or to discard the gifts of the body. Rather, it's to recognize that these gifts can be and are to be harnessed so we can actually tune in to that which is beyond them. So, aham, brahmasmi, I am all of this consciousness. Soham, I am that. When we come out of the womb, before very long, as a human being, we start to identify with this bodily vehicle. I'm here and I'm not there. I'm this and I'm not that. And this is called ahankara, the I maker. Well, this is one of the things that is signified by this very rich term in the Sanskrit, I maker, which is sometimes translated as ego. Not altogether inaccurate, but again potentially misleading because of the narrower or more partial connotations of the term ego relative to ahankara. Ahankara is also the intelligence that allows this bodily vehicle to cohere with all its cells cooperating in the miraculous way that it does. But as we come out of the womb, we also develop this sense of I am this, asmita. Aham, I, asmi, am, I am. Asmita, the sense of I amness. And I think I'm only this and not that. And this creates a sense of fear, a sense of insecurity. But at the same time, some identification with the bodily vehicle is utterly necessary to navigate material reality, where I end and the truck that is racing along the road towards me, where that begins, if I don't have a sense of separation, then it's very easy to lose one's sense of self completely because the bodily vehicle wasn't being taken care of. Now, this could happen in a very extreme way, like being run over by a truck. But this can also happen in a more subtle way. If I don't pay proper attention to the gifts of incarnation, those very gifts are of consciousness. They are means to tune back into the vaster consciousness. So let us not neglect the gifts of the body. Let us not neglect any of the myriad gifts of our constituent parts. Rather, let us practice yoga. Let us welcome, tune into, acknowledge, gather, and harness them all. And when we do, we will refine our sense of homeostasis, and we will, by and by, begin to destroy our sense of self so it can be replaced with one that is a little vaster, a little deeper, a little truer, a little more wholly authentic. And then the practice will continue and continue until eventually, perhaps, we do integrate the subject and the object and all of that. So, I'm not only this body, but while I'm in this body, let me savor the extraordinary opportunities that it offers me. Let me harness this beautiful human resource I have of gratitude and appreciation, which I can feel and tune into through the miraculous intelligence that pulsates, animates, and illumines this glorious vehicle with which I can come to experience more and more who I really am and the beauty of life. If you would like to explore this practical vision of whole life yoga, this podcast is being released in August 2025, and this means it's a new school year starting soon. And this autumn, the theme of the semester is the Ramayana. So I'll be giving a course on the living Ramayana. Ramayana is an extraordinary story. I'll be releasing a podcast that talks about this more soon. But very briefly, Ramayana gives us, in story form, the journey of yoga practice, the journey of a human who seeks to become all of what it means to be human. And so it offers us, in this wonderfully flavorful, resonant, memorable story form, the teachings of yoga, the practical teachings of yoga. And it contains many, many stories that are part of this, let's say, bigger, vaster main story, the adventure, the journey of Rama. And through the course, I will be telling the story and telling many of the stories within the story along the way. And then we'll be considering those stories, we'll be unpacking them, and we'll be relating them to our own lives, to our relationships, to ourselves, to the people around us, and to the vast reality that we're part of. And so we'll be seeking to soak in the rich support of the yogic teachings encoded in this text, in this story, applying them to our lives, and equipping ourselves with a very robust, time-proven set of references and supports that can help guide us on our own journey deeper into the reality of who we are. The course will run in English and in French. The live classes will be on Mondays and Wednesdays. All participants will have access to all the recordings. And if you are at all interested, it would be my joy to share this beautiful course with you.